Thanks very much, and thank you, Ben and Joe, for introducing the project. Saves me having to do it, so I can focus a little bit more on what I'm going to talk about today. So, yeah, my name is Joseff Saunders. I work for the South West Coastal Monitoring Programme. You might have previously known us as Plymouth Coastal Observatory. We've had a rebrand, we've changed our name a little bit, we still do the same thing. For those of you who don't know what we do, we collect, collate and analyse coastal data from around the southwest. This ranges from bathymetry surveys, topographic surveys, habitat mapping, asset inspections, and yeah, basically all building towards building that higher range of data information and processing for managers around the coast to make better decisions. We're one of 7 organisations which cover the entire coast of England and Wales, and we're all doing the same thing to try and collect this data in the same manner to make it reliable, repeatable, and reusable for all who want to use it around the coast. And we've been doing that since 2006, so 16 years in now. Yeah, so we're one of the key partners on the Making Space for Sound project. Part of our contribution is to collect all of that data that Ben and Joe were talking about. So part of that is UAV LiDAR flights of 5 key sites that we've already chosen. They were chosen just to add to the previous question based upon their characteristics which they face from a geomorphological perspective and how they might feed into other beaches around that as sort of key sites. We're also doing bathymetry collection as part of the project, because you not only need the volume data from on land, but you need that underwater as well to see how the whole system is evolving over time. We're doing a lot of reporting on each of the 40 sites, but we're also doing CoastSnap, which I'll come on to talk to you about today. So just briefly on the content, for those of you who don't know, I'll talk to you through what CoastSnap is, although Joe's already sort of stolen that from me, so I'll keep that very brief. Then I'll talk about what we're doing as part of the Making Space for Sound programme and how CoastSnap will hopefully help. Then what the community engagement of that will hopefully look like and what we're hoping to introduce and build upon that through sessions such as this. And then I'll go on to talk about the data collection that we've already been doing as part of Making Space for Sound. So what is CoastSnap? In essence, it is very simple. It's a fixed point photography monitoring station. So this is an example taken from Godrevy as part of the Making Space for Sound install. This was one of the first sites to go in. Very simple. It's a wooden fence post with a metal camera cradle on the top and an instructional sign. And basically it just asks passers-by, members of the public, to pop their phone in the cradle, take a photo of a particular area that you're interested in monitoring. So for this example, it's the upper beach system and the dune area of Godrevy. And then they send that through to us using a QR code. And over time, we can build up this really comprehensive catalogue of images. So, yeah, it's a community-led programme. It is community science. I avoid saying citizen science now because that not necessarily encompasses everyone. So it's a community science project. It relies on people passing by to take a photo, submit it through, and they are effectively the lead data collection. So it's a very cheap way for us to monitor the coastline. Typically, most of the monitoring that we do is very coarse in terms of its repeatability. So topographic surveys for some of these beaches, for example, they only occur 2 to 3 times a year. With this sort of style of monitoring, we are capturing images of that beach on a near daily basis, depending on the site. It's got plenty of coastal data output potentials that you can obtain from that. I'll just whip through a couple of them so you get a flavour, but it's not what I'm looking to focus on today. But yeah, firstly, you have that catalogue. So an image a day of a beach will outline those sort of near daily interactions that you're receiving at that beach, and it gives you a much clearer picture than the 3 nodal points I was talking about when you do a topographic survey every year. So that's one example. It is this, you can't really see it very clearly, but it's a shoreline detection method that came out of Australia. CoastSnap was originated in Australia about 6 years ago now. It's now a global thing. You have CoastSnap stations all the way around the world. I think over 300 stations and many thousands of photos have been submitted. But this is one of the key data outputs from what you can get. It's effectively plotting that shoreline, so where the sea meets the land, and it's done on an automated basis. If you apply a tidal correction, you can see how that shoreline is changing over time. You can look at the short-term impacts. So this is 2 photos taken around 20 days apart from Prey Sands. This is one of the Makerspace for Sand sites, but thankfully we already had a CoastSnap site here. So we've got plenty of data to look at. I'd just like to highlight the fact that this is capturing 2 storm events that happened in that time frame back in November 2022. And you can see the stripping of the upper beach sediment and the revealing of that sort of underground peat layer there at the top of Prey Sands. So that's another example. And then this is just a time lapse from Porthmuir in St Ives. This was taken on one photo for every month between 2022 and 2023. And I'll just leave it run for a bit, but basically it just highlights that flux in change of sand level heights, the change in the beach slope from quite steep in the summer to relatively flat in the winter. And there's even a photo of them regrading the sand in here because they have a problem with too much sand in Porthmuir. Porthmuir is also a Makerspace for Sand site. Even though it hasn't got a dune, it's got a lot of beach, it's got a lot of potential social interaction issues here. Yeah, interesting site, but thankfully we've already had a site here, and this is by far the most popular location. So it's had about, I think, 2,000 photos submitted from there now, probably more. So yeah, CoastSnap was part of the monitoring program since about 2020, so we've sort of ingrained it into how we collect data routinely. We had 14 sites installed before Makerspace for Sand started, and we've captured around 17,000 photos in just under 3 years from those 14 sites. So it's an incredible data source. There were 4 already installed in Cornwall, one in Prey Sands, Penzance, Porthmuir and Perranporth. Those were chosen based on some of the key characteristics that we wanted to monitor, whether it's a sea defence, beach, sand level height, or whatever the interest might be. Okay. So the Makerspace for Sand project we saw CoastSnap as an excellent way to engage local communities, get them involved and start building up that image catalogue of some of the 40 locations that were pre-decided as part of the project. So we looked to install all of them. It was a reconnaissance program, but effectively we found that around 25 to 30 sites were viable for a CoastSnap location for a number of reasons. So it's not very clear, but the sites in green that you can see on the map, they've already been installed. Ones in orange are ready to be installed. We're just waiting on a permission or just finding the time to go and dig a hole. And not very clearly are the ones in red that are tiny little dots, but they've effectively been discarded as locations. So the aim is effectively to monitor that dune evolution over time at each of the sites that we install a CoastSnap site. So if you're getting one image submitted every day, roughly on average, we can start to observe the interactions of that beach and dune system. So I should mention all of these CoastSnap sites are focusing primarily on that upper beach to dune system to see how that is evolving over time. With enough images collected, we can start to link in the hydrodynamic and meteorological conditions that are influencing that beach. So this is just a time-lapse taken from Par Sands. This was the first one that we actually installed, and it shows just how much that beach changes over a couple of months period from August to October. The upper beach there, especially with the high tides that we had as part of that period. So each site will hopefully be installed for around 10 years. If you get a photo a day, you do the maths, that's about 3,500 to 4,000 photos over 10 years from each site. So it's an incredible amount of data potential to be collected. The dunes that we're looking at, they are naturally at risk from sea level rise. I think that goes without saying. A dune's natural reaction is to roll back, so erode at the face in the face of sea level rise, deposit the sand back into the back of the dune system and effectively move backwards. So it stays alive, it's redistributed, but it needs space to move. The majority of our sand dune systems in Cornwall are penned in by something to do with humans. So in this example from Fistral South, this is one of the newest sites we put in, it's penned in by a golf course. There are car parks, there are road infrastructure, there's a number of different things which are hampering that rollback effect of these dune systems to survive in the face of sea level rise. So yeah, Fistral South, there's very little left of the dune here. You can sort of see from this image where the high tide mark was by the darker sand. So at the high tide, effectively the water is lapping against the toe of this dune, and it hasn't got anywhere to go. There's a golf course in the way. So what is the future of this dune system? This is what we're trying to investigate as part of the project. One of the simplest ways to convey impact and change at a beach, rather than presenting them with fancy plots, if you're speaking to someone in the community, a member of the public, the easiest way to do that is a picture. So if you can represent how much a beach has changed over a set period of time, just showing 2 photos from the same perspective, it has an incredibly powerful effect on the minds of the public. A picture speaks 1,000 words. So as part of the Making Space for Sound project, we've engaged with well over 20 sort of community groups and organisations, much of which was through the help from Jolyon, highlighting where those community groups were and how to get in contact with them. But effectively, all of these, well, the majority of these beaches has underlying an organisation that is looking or is interested in what is happening at that beach and at that dune system. So yeah, here's just a couple of them. Some have been really influential in getting us permissions to install these CoastSnap sites, and they've been avid uptakers of photos since they've gone in. So from a community perspective, having a CoastSnap site there hopefully empowers the local community to take more of a sort of knowledge of what's happening at that dune system. It hopefully encourages them to submit the photography that we need to analyse that dune system over time. And it really just starts the narrative off over what is a healthy dune system and what can you do to promote positive change into the future. So we're really looking for local champions at each of these sites. And now local champions are the real sort of breadwinners for this sort of project. They are the true collectors of the data. If they walk their dog past one of these sites, they're all positioned at very sort of accessible locations. So if they can submit a photo every day, then that is effectively that site cared for in a way. And we also need local champions to avoid stuff like this happening. This is the Fistral South sign. This happened about a week and a half after it was installed. Did note, I was just saying to Jolyon that somebody actually scratched the Cornwall Council logo off first, and then the QR code, and then they just ripped the sign in half. So yeah, we've got some engagement to do there, potentially have some riot shield glass over the sign. I think that was the plan. But yeah, this has happened twice now, and it's never happened before as part of the CoastSnap project. So I don't know if there's just somebody very angry with Cornwall Council in Fistral, who knows? Maybe they just don't like CoastSnap. So yeah, the other thing is we want to make these images publicly available. We realise that they've got great potential. We're looking for people to start using them for different uses. We get lots of requests in every week from people wanting to access these photos because currently they're stored internally. But the plan is we've got a national website, which is shown in the picture there. This stores all of the data that we collect. So the idea is that we're going to build a CoastSnap gallery, which will host all of these quality controlled and aligned photos on so that people can access them, download them, analyse them, do whatever they might want to do, take an interest in them. And the main thing I should say from this is anybody who takes a photo is navigated directly from their phone from the submission page to the Making Space for Sound website, which has that enormous detail on all of the locations that they're interested in. So effectively bringing people back in a full feedback loop to what the Making Space for Sound project is all about, which is really nicely articulated in the new website. Okay. Right, so just very briefly on the data collection side of things. So we've installed 8 sites currently, so we've got a lot more to go. We started installations in August this year, so they've not been in for very long, and already we've received around just over 650 submissions now as of a couple of days ago. This just gives you an idea of which sites are doing quite well. So on the left-hand side, you have submissions per day, and then on the bottom there, you have the 8 sites that we've already installed. So Gadrivi is doing the best by far, nearly 3 photos per day since it's been installed. Popular location, it's literally it's located right along the beach entrance, as if you're walking from the National Trust car park. So that sort of element of the project does have a real big impact where the position of the CoastSnap cradle is located. Crantock is the lowest. Not sure why. It's located on Pentyre Head, right next to the car park. Perhaps people are just really eager to get to the beach. I'm not sure. But yeah, so far it's been really good. It's been taken up very well by local members of the public, and we've also got a couple of local champions who've been fantastic in capturing these photos. But yeah, hopefully they're going to be in for 10 years so we should hopefully gather a significant amount of imagery. Next up, we've got Holywell and Penhale, which I need to talk to Andy about if I can catch him today. But yeah, those are the next two on the list, and hopefully we'll have another sort of 6 in before the end of the year. So yeah, watch this space, and thank you very much. Any questions? Hi.
Yeah, you said about collecting the data and then feeding that back as the main focus of the project. If it's for 10 years, are you going to do that continuously throughout the project and not wait till the end of 10 years? Is that data going to be rolling back into the communities and the groups?
The idea is that as soon as the image is submitted, we normally process it within a couple of months and then make it available. If it needs to be made available more quickly than that, then yes, we would do. But yes, that is the idea for the 10 years then, is that they are processed after a set amount of time for each one to be collected and then made available. We'll look to do some analysis, use this sort of material for community engagement as well, because it's a really good way of portraying what the message that we're trying to get through as part of the Making Space for Sound project, which is dunes need space to roll back.
On that note, with the areas like you said about the golf course, are you engaging with those businesses who might think you want to make space for sand in my golf course? Is that quite a close connection you're having?
It might have been the golf course who vandalised the sign. Yes, that's the idea. Part of the Make Space for Sound project is that there will be some capital works, hopefully at the end of it, to make space for some of these key dune systems to roll back. It just depends on who's willing to listen, who's willing to make a difference, and yeah, who's willing to make space, because it will have to come at the sacrifice of someone.